Hi, everybody, and welcome to tonight's live with myself, Shakti Sundari, and Eugina Liberty. This is our fourth session chatting live here on Facebook about dating in 2025. And it's a conversation that just keeps on going and keeps on giving because there's just so much to speak to, and we're sharing both from our personal lives and our personal experience, as well as both of us having many years experience in working in the field of authentic relating. And just got to bring Eugina on. Hang on. Can't see. um, yeah, both of us, many years experience in the field of higher conscious relating and tantra and embodied awareness and all of these beautiful juicy things. So hello, beautiful.
Hello, hello. It's so wonderful to see you and get on our weekly chats about dating, what we love the most.
Yeah,
How are you doing? You're looking absolutely wonderful.
thank you. I feel good. I feel amazing, actually. I was just meditating for a few minutes before coming on with you and just like really tuning into calling in all the support and calling in like my highest self, and really kind of wanting to embody radiance and love here present now for this conversation, and just then surrendering to wherever it goes, let it be for the highest good of us and everyone who shows up. That's my prayer for tonight.
Absolutely. I second that. I second that. So I'm so happy that we have connected and decided to talk about things like that, because it like kind of became a weekly ritual talking about dating. And especially now that I'm freshly single, ready to mingle, it seems like quite an interesting experience, and we were going to talk about sex. This is
Yes.
an exciting topic, and actually I would like to share something on this topic.
Okay,
um,
go for it.
because um, yeah, it seems like that there is, I find when people date, there is this unspoken expectation of sex, or what can I get at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and it just blows my mind how people assume or behave in a way to get something. I feel like a lot of people go into a relationship or dating to see what they can get
Mm-hmm.
rather than what they can give. And it's very interesting to observe for me. Um, I happened to have a date last night.
Oh, how was it?
I know it was very impromptu. Like for me, seriously, for me, this is why I'm a dating coach. For me, manifest a date, it's like just snap my fingers and it's there.
Wow.
And it's been a wonderful experience in terms of like, had a great conversation. It was like only us in a restaurant, so nice music, everything, like a beautiful, beautiful time. um oh, hello from Philippines. Hello, hello.
Oh,
Welcome to, to our life. Brilliant. And actually I want to say that we really value your participation in the conversation. So even though we might not like read out your comments right away, please do share your opinions with us. We read comments afterwards, we connect with comments afterwards. We would love to know what you're thinking and your thoughts on the topic. So please take part, and you are invited to be part of the conversation with us.
yeah.
um, but yeah, anyway, back to my story where everything was going great. And we just been talking about is like what it would look like for us to, like, let's say, to go on another date. And my straight up upfront position is, I'm available to get to know you, but I am not available for sex.
Mhm.
Simple. I'm not available for sex. And that was actually a deal breaker. You know,
Wow.
it was a deal breaker. And it shows me that, you know, that there is an expectation of like having sex quite early into dating from a lot of people.
Hmm.
And
Do you think it's equal men and women, that expectation?
I think the expectation is bigger from the men's side, and from women's side is more confusion. It's like, shall I or shouldn't I?
Hmm.
So I think this is very like in my experience, my personal experience, and working with clients, I think women we like a little more like, oh, can I see myself with him? Shall I? You know, if the especially if the chemistry is there, we just like, oh my god, this is nice. But then it's like, but what is he gonna think about me? Shall I go there? Shall I do this? This feels nice. Oh, so we like a bit more confused. Men a bit more like direct, is like, well, I want to.
Can I ask? I mean, you don't have to answer. I'm just curious, and I've got a lot to say in response, but like, let this thing, you know, what you have to say finish first. But like, what did he say? Like, he just said, "Oh, well, I don't want to see you again if we can't have sex on the next date," or
No, he said, well, I'm not looking for a friendship, I want to date you.
so in his mind, then dating equals sex.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, it was very interesting for me to see, you know, because like that expectation is there. It's like, well, actually, I don't know you, I never met you in my life. It's like, I don't want to have sex with you straight away. In fact, I actually don't want to have sex with you at all.
Well,
You
especially after
know.
saying that. Yeah.
You know, so this is the thing. And I think sometimes when man is straightforward and assertive, it can be perceived as the leadership and like it can be exciting. But if it's like practiced in a concept where there is no safety, I feel it can be actually quite off-putting.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, because once again, you know, he looked at what he can get instead of what he can give. And for me, that is not a good leadership. And you know, right now I don't feel like I'm ready for a relationship or anything like that, but it was just like so interesting for me to observe, especially that we're doing these interviews, you know, and it's like to not interviews but conversations, to really like be there in the moment myself in the dating and just see how different people react so differently to things. And this once again inspired me to think how important our boundaries with ourselves
Yeah.
are. Because like if I wouldn't have a strong boundary and decided for myself that I'm not available for that, you know, it's like I would be like, oh, but should I or shouldn't I? You know, it's like I've been in those positions many times in the past when I lack clarity about where I stand in regards to something.
Yeah.
It makes me feel confused about how I am with the other person, and I can be swayed into something that is actually not good for me.
Yeah. I'd love to offer some reflection on this. You know, it brings up a lot that I'd love to share.
Sure,
Um,
please.
yeah, because okay, so a few things. So firstly, I'm on two dating apps at the moment. I'm also single, and in my experience, I suppose I think every app probably has a different flavor. So there is that to be said. So the one app that I'm on called Field, which is open-minded dating, is very obviously more sexual than other apps. And I would say like 90% of the men who've liked me on there, it's very obvious they just want casual sex or a one night stand. So that app is particular for that,
Mm.
right? So I kind of know that, and that's not what I want, but I'm also there for that minority of people who are open-minded and alternative, but don't want to just focus on lots of one-night stands and casual sex, because I don't want that. Then I'm on another app where that isn't the focus. But in my experience, and probably a lot of women, so I'll speak for my own experience, it seems like a lot of men approach with the intention of sex, and at least on field it's honest. It's like, you know what they want because it says it on their profile. On other apps it's more dishonest in a way because it's not spoken out loud. And so, for example, I'll give you one example. Like, this guy approached me, and this is another thing. I find that men who comment on my appearance as the first thing that they say almost always are sexually led. So I get loads of comments. Oh, hi, gorgeous. Hi, beautiful. You're so gorgeous. Like, you know, the opening line. And almost I can guarantee that every man who leads with how beautiful I am after sex, whereas somebody who makes a comment about something in my profile, I know at least they've read my profile and they're approaching a bit more respectfully and with a sense of me as a whole person, not just as something beautiful to look at and that is evoking desire in them. So I'm much more likely, men, if you're watching this, to respond to somebody who sees me as a whole person and not just this beautiful picture. And so this one guy approached me, hi, beautiful, la 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 la, and I did respond. And then he said, I've had a long day. I'm going to have a steamy hot shower and go to bed. And I thought, as soon as he put the word steamy in there, already my alarm bells were going off, because I just knew something else was going to come. And sure enough, you know, it was like something like, I wish you'd been in, you know, it would have been more steamy with you in the shower with me. And I was like, and I blocked him straight away, gone. And the thing is, that's kind of like a dishonest, whereas on the field, you know, it's more obvious. See, I don't mind if somebody wants sex and they say that's what they want and they're upfront about it, no problem. But when it's kind of a hidden agenda, I do have a problem with that. And, you know, there are also differences between men and women. I'm going to generalize now. This is a generalization, generally speaking, but I feel safe to say this. I've worked with women in sexuality for over 20 years. Women need to feel safe and to have an emotional connection with somebody to open sexually to them. There may be a lot of women opening sexually to men prematurely, even though they don't feel safe, even though they don't have an emotional connection, because of social pressure, because they're confused, like you say, because they don't know how to hold a boundary, they don't know how to say no, they're not in touch with themselves, all kinds of reasons why women might engage in sexual activity when it's not really a wholehearted yes. And the thing is then, unless they're very self-aware, that there will be repercussions for both, but for the women especially, because again, this is a generalization. When we open our bodies, we open our hearts, we open our souls, we open our energy fields, and we literally take the man's energy into our bodies. And that then is felt. And the more aware and sensitive we are, the more that has reverberations through the whole of our body, our energy field, our hearts, our emotional body. It's not a simple physical act. And even if you're not so sensitive or aware to feel that as a woman, the repercussions are still happening and your body will remember. And then things begin to happen, like your body numbs out, your vagina numbs out. So you have less sensation, you have less awareness, and you may just be going through something very repetitively and not even enjoying it or not even being present. And that's kind of the worst kind of intimacy to be having with somebody. So there are these differences. And I think one more thing I want to say, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on one.
No, 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 go ahead. Yes, it's great.
It's like there is this idea that women are less sexual and men are sexually driven. And I really want to, I want to bust that myth, Women are designed to be, we are sex itself, but not in the way that society teaches you it. So when we feel safe, when we feel connected, when we are in touch with ourselves, and we open to a man who is approaching us with respect and love and care and presence, the sexual energy that flows through us is infinite and endless, more than most men could possibly keep up with, right? And that's what most people don't understand. So it's a complete myth, but we're just designed very differently, kind of oppositely, right? Um, it's just that, so the whole way of approaching is completely different. And the thing is, one more thing I want to say is that a lot of men use sex as a way to experience connection. So what they really want is connection and intimacy, and the only way they know how to experience that is through sex. But that can be, you know, we can expand that, we can change that. You can begin to develop the capacity to feel connection without having to go straight to penetrative sex with somebody. And that's what real intimacy is. I'll stop talking now.
No, not at all. You know, it's so beautiful what you shared, because for sure, I would love to contribute to the point where we have been built differently, men and women. And like, as I like to present this, is like, you wouldn't cook a dinner on a cold frying pan.
Oh.
You have to warm up, you know, to heat up the frying pan before you're gonna cook your dinner on it. So this is what you have to do with us women. You have to make sure that we are feeling hot and ready to go. And that means emotionally and physically. And if you can touch our soul, trust me, there is nothing that will stop us to be at your, you know, utmost, you know, wild and most incredible experience. Like that there is nothing you can do that will like jeopardize, you know, like how devoted we are to you, unless you're crossing our boundaries. This is the thing, is like, when we feel safe with you, we are devoted to you. Like the submission is real. You know, it's like, I don't know any woman who doesn't want to surrender to her man. I don't know any woman like that. And I work with pretty incredible powerhouses. You know, it's like the teachers, the doctors, the coaches, like you name it. We all want to surrender to your leadership. But when we understand that we don't trust that leadership, like our alarm bells are on, our vigilance is up.
Yep.
We're like,
Yep.
oh my God, do I need to hold myself together? Do I need, like, where the next, you know, like fight is coming from? Like what, you know, it's like I have to have my warrior princess out. I have to make sure that, you know, that I'm ready for whatever comes at me. And as a man, if your woman feels that way, you're not doing your job properly. You know, you're not doing your job properly. And this is not an attack, it's a personal invitation for you to step into your power. And like, oh, but what do you mean step into my power? I'm pretty powerful, you know. It's like, what it means is you can start very slowly. Like, for example, start with saying what you do and do what you say, so that your actions and your words are aligned.
Mm.
Start checking your energies. Like, are you doing this because you're thinking you're gonna get something out of it, or are you doing things for your woman because you feel like you want to make sure that she feels happy and safe? Like, what are your intentions? Start with those two steps, and I guarantee your dating experience gonna change. Really, it's going to change in a most positive way. If you said you're gonna be there at 7 p.m., be there 2 minutes early, 5 minutes early. Don't make it, you know, for me, when the guy is late for a date, when the guy tells me that he's gonna be there at 7 and at 7:15 he's still not there,
Mm.
like I'm not at ease.
Of course.
I'm feeling vigilant already.
Yeah,
I'm not at ease. I don't like
of
it, you know?
course. Yeah, I would really love to kind of make it even more practical, because I'm kind of hearing a little voice in my head for men who are saying, what does it mean, keep like to be like for her to feel safe? What does that actually mean? What does that practically look like? Because like I think men like real practical
Yeah.
steps.
Mm.
Okay, so you have already named one, which is be a man of your word, be completely consistent. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you've got a date, confirm the date the night before. Make sure you show up on time or a little bit early so that you're there, ready, like you've got the table, you're ready to order the drinks, whatever, you know. And if you are going to be late, make sure you call to let her know. Communicate. Like these are really important. Like, so be consistent, be in integrity, speak your truth, be honest, um, be upfront about your intentions, be honest about your values, be honest about your desires. So all these things, like I always, honestly, it's like if you look at the sexual organs of a man and a woman, it tells you where the energy is most aligned. So masculine energy is straight, it's consistent, it's in integrity, it's unwavering, right? It's the backbone, it's I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. It's like when you feel your emotions, I'm still going to be here like a strong tree with my roots in the ground. I'm not going to bend or be swayed or react. That's powerful, healthy, masculine energy that then also comes through into the consciousness of his lingam. I'm going to use that word when you're making love. If you get to that point, right? The feminine is round, is soft, is luscious, is flowing, is fluid. It's a completely different, the opposite, right? So she needs this container to be able to, the word you used was surrender. And when we say surrender or submit, we don't, well, I don't necessarily mean anyway, like in, because I think sometimes people then think BDSM or something like that. And it's not meaning that. It's simply for a woman to experience her fullest pleasure, but also for a woman just to be her most radiant, her most glorious, luscious, soft, loving, nurturing, nourishing feminine, which is the energy that men crave. She has to feel safe to relax her body, to relax her nervous system, to not have to be using her mind to be taking care of all the details. It's like, oh, you know, because when we're in our jobs and when we're looking after our children, and, you know, there's a lot of brain that has to be used, but like, we can't be fully in our feminine energy and on our glorious orgasmic potential if we're thinking about all the details of what needs to happen. We want all of that to be taken care of, and then we can just let go. What happens when you let go? You have an orgasm.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so beautiful, you know. It's like when your body is relaxed, when your body is uh just feeling soft and at ease, this is where the pleasure comes in. And like I would love to give a very simple example of um last year, as I mentioned before, I had an accident and I broke my leg. So I could not function by myself. I could not. And funny enough, most of people who took care of me was men, right? So this
Oh,
experience really allowed me to reconnect and trust men taking care of me, right? And my boyfriend at the time was taking me out, um, and not only him, you know, like the men in my life were taking me out. And what was happening, because I couldn't walk by myself, I was walking with this Zimmer frame, you know, like really I had to focus one step at the time. So what they've been doing, they've been like making sure that everything around me is safe, that there is no car coming towards me, and if there is, that they would, you know, like maneuver and like show with the, you know, on their arms that,
mhm.
hey, listen, slow down, you know. It's like like really take care of me so that I can focus on making that step. That was feeling like that was me being in my feminine, completely, you know, trusting him to take care of
Take
me.
care of you. Yes.
You know, and I felt so safe in
Mm.
that experience when I went out by myself. Oh my God, I had to navigate so many things. Like, first time, I will never forget, I went out by myself, even to the park, to the little road, but there is no cars, you know, like outside of my house. And I just had to look where I step. I had to look around in case somebody's coming. I just had to like, and it was so overwhelming for me because like obviously I was in a very vulnerable situation,
Yeah.
you know, but every time when I was out with a guy, you know, like my friend or my boyfriend at the time, it was, I just felt like, it felt like an exhale, like, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking care of me.
Mm.
Thank you for doing this with your pure heart,
Mm.
you know, because that was so important. And that was the bonding connection. And this is what we women looking for in the relationship, that we can exhale, that like, oh my God, I don't have to like carry all of it by myself. I have a teammate right here with me who I can share this life experience with, you know.
Mm.
But we have to get to that point where we can create the trust, that it's like, and us women, we're gonna test you guys. This is, we're gonna test you. We're gonna see like, can we like, this is in
Yeah.
our DNA. And those women who say, oh, I try not to, you are tested, man, for sure, you know. And at least you, when you get to the point like, okay, I can relax, I can trust him now, this is when, you know, you will be able to surrender and let go, you know. But
Mm.
until then, until you decide that you can trust him, nothing she will test you. Just take my word for it.
Do you know what? I don't think I had any sense of testing people, if I'm honest with you. That would never have been anything that I knew about
Mm-hmm.
till way late in my life. And I still wouldn't frame it in those words myself. But like I can speak to, so yeah, it would never have occurred to me. Like, and we're different generations, and I think this makes it also interesting. So that I grew up in like such a patriarchal family, such a patriarchal society, the whole like way that women and men conditioned then was just, you know, women were so sexualized. I would be like, you know, sexual comments being thrown at me as a schoolgirl going to school in my school uniform when I was 13, you know, like it was very, very different to the norm now, thank God. But I mean, thank God for now. So like I had no sense of boundaries. I had no sense of my rights. I had no sense, like I was conditioned that men could do things to me. It didn't occur to me I could say no. It didn't occur to me I could ask for what I wanted. I've had to learn all of these things through my lifetime, and still learning, you know. But like the way I'm showing up now as I'm dating is basically I tune in, like I say, I receive a message from somebody, I will tune into my body. I will tune into my inner guidance. I will feel what is true. And I will also, this is a really important thing for me, leave space. I won't usually respond straight away. I will give time for my nervous system and my body to assimilate, to percolate what I've received from them, if it's a text message. And then when I have clarity to what my response is, I'll respond in my absolute truth, whatever it is, with no thought for, oh, is he going to like this? Is this going to put him off? Don't care about that. All I care about is, am I being true to myself? Am I honoring myself? Does this feel correct for me?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll wait to see what response comes. And according to the response that comes, I will either continue the conversation or I'll cut it off.
Mm-hmm.
So that that's kind of, I suppose that might be my way of testing, but I don't think of it like that.
Hmm.
And the same happens in face-to-face meeting. Then it's like, okay, I'm going to keep showing up in a way that's honoring and true to me. And when something feels off, like, he might have like been doing really well, and then he'll say something, and I'll be like, what? you know, no, that doesn't feel right to me, and I'll have to name it.
Hmm.
But like I can feel, and I'm very, what's the word, sort of skilled at this point of really noticing my somatic experience, which for every woman, this is so essential if you want to relate consciously, if you want to, well, it's, for everyone, but if you want to relate in a way that's honoring to you, you have to be in touch with your somatic experience. I can feel myself contracting or expanding moment by moment based on how he is showing up, how he is speaking to me, what his body language is doing, how he's looking at me, what he's just said. And some things I will just go, and other things I'll be like, ugh. And like you said, the exhale, I think that's such a beautiful way of, making it clear to everybody what that's like. Imagine like you take a big breath in, and when you exhale, like, like everything relax, every
Yes, your shoulders drop. You just like, wow, this is nice. And I used to date a guy a few years back, long time ago now, actually when I just started doing this work. We started dating when I just started doing this work, and my business coach at the time told me, like, well, I said to her, oh, I feel like I want to be in a relationship, and she was like, no, you need to focus on business. I'm like, I can have both. I'm a coach of desire, for God's sake. It's like I can have it all. So I met this man, a beautiful man. And every time when he was like, even in a close proximity with me, like I felt like I was expanding, like my chest was expanding, like, and it felt like, and this is just how I can like share this. I can't explain. I haven't experienced this with anyone else. But every time, like first time when he held my hand, I just felt like a rush of energy going through my entire body, like a sparkles. It was just so beautiful and wonderful and incredible, and was like, wow, this is something really special.
Let me just, I've just written, because I write little words down to speak to when I next get to speak, but that thing that you've just spoken to, can you name what it was that you think, like, what was it about the way that he took your hand that created that for you?
Um, in that moment, what was created for me, I I knew we're gonna see each other again. I knew we have some history, and um, I knew I knew that we were seeing each other. Yeah, it's very strange to explain, but there is like some sort of knowing was accessed within me. And as I learned later into our relationship, we actually spent lifetimes together. And um, and like when we've been making love, like honestly, I didn't know what orgasm was, like not clitoral orgasm, but like a full body nourishing wonderful orgasm. I didn't know what I never experienced one. Maybe once, or maybe once or, yeah, I would say once in my whole life. So when I started like learning about this, because our connection was so deep, my body surrendered to him absolutely. There was not a doubt in my body that I can trust him. So the orgasms, they just been like blowing my
Right.
mind. And actually, we would like start making out or something like that. And I would just set an intention. I want to experience an orgasm. Boom. Just like right there, And one experience in particular, I remember we've been like laying on the bed, naked. He was laying on me, like his genitals, like next to my genitals, like nothing. We are not even doing anything, and we just looking into each other's eyes, and we just kissing and just being there with each other. And in that moment, my pussy just came out, took his penis and sucked him in. Like really sucked him in. And we both just like look at each other like, what just happened? Like the mind was completely blown away. And then after that happened, I of course started researching, and there is a tantric practice for this actually, where this happens. So
Yeah.
but we were doing this naturally, and it was just such a beautiful, wonderful connection for both of us, where this is the relationship where I feel that I really healed a um very sensitive part of me. So I would say, when people tell me like, oh my god, I have to be fully healed before I even think about dating, it's like you can really heal with amazing person next to you,
Yeah.
that will elevate and speed up your healing process, because like all of us can be gurus when we are on our own. But then when we are in a romantic connection in particular, it triggers the deepest wounds within us.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
So being with a person who can hold you through like the storm of this experience is so, so important. And dating for sure gonna take you places.
Yeah. That's gosh, what do I want to say to that? There's so much again to respond to in that. So I want to respond first of all to your beautiful lovemaking experience as you've described it, which is so beautiful. And just again emphasize that for you that was made possible because you felt 100% safe with this man. You trusted him 100%. You were in a committed relationship with this man, right? And I like what you're speaking to. I understand, I know. And I think a lot of women and men have no idea that is even possible. Um, and it's just, I can't emphasize enough that that kind of thing is made possible by love and safety and connection, true heart connection. And it's going to be, well, impossible to taste that if you're just going for surface level lust, which is more like about scratching an itch, and what you were saying at the very beginning, just taking from the other. And actually men and women take from each other for different reasons, for validation, for for connection, la la la. The other thing, what was the other thing? I've kind of lost the plot a little bit now. What was I going to say? I've completely lost my train of thought now. Oh no, it was such a good thing I was going to say. What was the last thing you said?
I said, well, about the lovemaking, and yeah, how safe I felt.
Okay.
I think that this.
There was another something. It's gone. The other point, okay, so I'm going to go off on another point. Maybe it will come back, is the thing about foreplay. Foreplay is not just what you do sexually or physically. So for a woman, foreplay is everything that you do in how you relate to her outside the bedroom, everything. And her whole energy field, body and pussy, is going to either open or close based on all the things we've already spoken about: kindness, consideration, care. Are you reliable? Are you in integrity? Are you speaking the truth? Like all these things will either open and close way before you even get anywhere near being sexually together, right? But then the next, because you talked about your hand and how like something went through your whole body, just your hand. And I was reading a post of a friend of mine this today, where she spoke about how she's so sensitive that, you know, you just need to touch her hair a certain way and she feels thrills through her whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I can relate to that. I can relate to, you know, being highly sensitive. And again, this is the potential for every woman. It's not like you have to be special, but a lot of women are cut off from that because they've numbed themselves out through traumatic experience or exposing themselves to sex when they weren't actually ready for it. So their whole system is down, but it can reopen. So the potential is there for every woman and man, actually, that, like, actually, even like, oh, that's it, when you were saying you were lying with your partner, you can have forms of orgasm without doing anything. You can be lying still next to each other and just looking into each other's eyes, or breathing, or like gently stroking someone's cheek or arm or finger or toe,
Yeah, yeah,
orgasmic
yeah,
together.
yeah.
So the whole idea of like, it's about getting to an end goal, right? Is like so limiting, so limiting what is available to both of you. No, I wanted to kind of make that point. I know there was something else I was going to say, but it has gone. Maybe it will come back. But the thing about foreplay is really important. And I just really wish that both men and women understood that this is going to benefit both of them. Like, if you want the utmost zenith experience, this is what you're going to have to learn to cultivate within yourself.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like being more selective who you choose
Yeah, yeah.
to do, to go there with. Also, you know, I find the last thing that I said was that a relationship can heal you, you know, that
Oh,
you
that
don't.
was it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It just like keeps coming in and
Yeah,
out of me.
which doesn't mean you just get into a relationship with anyone thinking, oh, he's going to heal me. No, it means, like you said, to be even more boundaried and selective. Just like the egg is very, very selective about which sperm she lets in, right?
And actually, there was a study done that a woman's womb actually chooses the sperm that she accepts, you know, for the eggs to to get in ovulation. When those little swimmers swim, she will not open up to just anybody.
That's right.
There has to be the right frequency.
Yes.
For the swimmers to get to the egg, to fertilize the egg.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah. So if you take that metaphor and apply it to dating, which is what it is basically, you know, there is that very biological part to it and energetic part to it, which is you're selecting. Even if you don't want to procreate, you know, I don't want to procreate. I can't procreate anymore, but I still want to be selective about who comes into my energy field, who comes close to me, who comes into me, you know, because I know that once that has happened, there's a connection, there's an energetic merger, there's a bonding, there's an imprint, there's a sharing of DNA. Even when you're kissing, you're sharing DNA, right? So I think one thing I would really love to emphasize that I think is misunderstood a lot, because I speak very openly about sex and sexuality. I love sex. I love sexuality. I love sensuality. I love intimacy. But that does not mean that I want to be sexual with everybody. It actually is kind of, the more I've learned about sex and sexuality, it kind of has meant I'm become more and more selective. So it doesn't equate to that. And sort of having this conversation doesn't mean that we are sexually available ourselves. It just means that we are free from the shame of the conditioning in society, that this is something that is hidden, that we can't talk about openly, because shame is part of the reasons that a lot of people are having unfulfilling sex lives and doing things sexually that they don't really want to do because they're too ashamed to say no. They're too ashamed to speak up. They're too ashamed to ask what they want. They're too ashamed, to vocalize their truth. And so by speaking openly about it as we do here, hopefully this will inspire others to become more empowered in that arena of their lives, because it's so important. It affects everything. Every single part of your life is impacted by how you are in touch with your sexuality, and how you relate to your sexuality, and how you use your sexual energy, and how you then interact with others with that aspect of yourself, either integrated or not.
Mm. I gotta say that shame is one of the biggest killers of attraction. It's one of the biggest killers of relationship, actually. This is where relationship die, in my experience.
Mm.
Um, because what happens, um, like when people are unsatisfied in area of lovemaking,
Mm-hmm.
and like maybe one feels somewhat, like, um what is the word, what is the right word, like kind of curbed, you know
Curbed.
yeah, like parked, not desired or something like that, it begins like you begin wondering, is something wrong with me?
Mm.
And the other person, for whatever reason, they're like, well, I am not, you know making my role in the relationship work. It's like something like that. For whatever reason, there can be like health reasons, there could be stress reasons, something like that. But the more shame we carry about that and other things, because shame and stress will definitely impact your ability to have pleasure, to give and receive pleasure.
Sure.
And actually, it will have a very massive impact on your self-worth, as a man, as a woman, and will like start, if you like, will create a doubt of like, what are you worthy and deserving of, and thinking is like, what is normal and what isn't normal, you know and the more you allow to let them things slide, the more it kind of tells you subconsciously that it's okay to accept bare minimum when you want the whole cake. And very often what I see, that people accept bare minimum once in the whole cake, but then carry the resentment of accepting the crumbs towards that person. And again, take the brutal responsibility for your actions and inactions. If you chose to accept someone knowing that they don't fit all of your, desired list, then
Mm-hmm.
take responsibility that you made the choice. It's not no point to carry that shame and resentment towards that person, because they most likely, showed you what they can give you.
Mm-hmm.
you know and if you chose to accept it, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is in pleasure, in ambition. This is to do with the housework, even like simple things. If this person never cleans their house, what are the chances that it's not their priority? And if you are accepting that, you making that decision. It's no point of you walking around being all resentful. It's like, oh my god, he or she didn't clean the house, or it's like getting pissed off with them. It's like, well, when you gonna tidy up, where are you gonna pick up your shit off the floor? Like, there's no point doing all of that, because you knew, like, if you communicate this once, you communicate this twice, on the third time nothing changes. This is how this person is.
Yeah.
So there is no point for you to like be upset with them, or like having arguments about the same thing. But what happens with us, with women in particular, we internalize things.
Mm-hmm.
We internalize, because after 3 times we don't want to ask, like, oh, I better do it myself. But then that resentment, it sits in your body, and what happens very often, that we grow things inside our bodies, um like cysts in our womb, for example. That is, like a massive resentment, sign of resentment towards men. That they're cancerous growths, like all of that. So whatever you don't express actually turns into some sort of growth inside of your body, more often than not.
Well, and also, the work of Gabor Mate,
Mm-hmm.
who, is really well known these days talking about trauma and the body. And he talks extensively about how women, far more than men, suffer from various autoimmune diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because of the repressed anger, primarily, unexpressed emotion and repressed anger, basically. And, again, like when you hear quite commonly, I think, in relationships, particularly longer term relationships, that sort of the sex life dies off and it's not really fulfilling anymore and it becomes a chore. And um, there can be complaints from men that they're not getting what they want, and women that they just don't want to have it, they're not interested. Well, pretty much in that kind of scenario, what is happening is so much unexpressed resentment, because and both people are responsible, because I think if you listen to some of the narratives out there, women think it's all men's fault. And I really want to kind of say that it's no, it takes two for that dynamic to be in place. And you're both fully responsible for the situation. It's not that women are asexual. It's not that women hate sex at all. They love it if it's done in the right way. But if you think you're entitled to it and you're just using it as a release because you're stressed at work and you just need to kind of let go some energy, that's really not going to cut it in the same way for a woman. Like holding on to all your resentment, all your unexpressed needs, all the times that you haven't said what you really want and what you really need, etc. You're responsible for that, and that's in your body, and your body's never going to open and do that lovely exhale that we were talking about at the start if all that is buried in your system. Of course you're not going to feel like having sex and being intimate, right? I'm really blessed to know a few couples who I regard as, like, for me, they're like, that's the kind of relationship I want. Conscious, tantric, deep, committed relationships. So I look at these couples, they're my friends, and I think, wow, you know, that's what I want. And I know that it takes work, and I know that it takes commitment. And one of the things that they prioritize is date nights. So they set aside time in their week, every week, whatever, to prioritize hours, not just half an hour, like 2 or 3 hours of screen free time, intimacy practices with no particular goal, right? But just doing intimacy practices together and sharing that time as an essential ingredient in cultivating love, in cultivating connection, and releasing like any resentments that might have built up between the two of them. And I really, we're not taught this stuff. And if we look at what our parents did, for most people, that's going to be a shitty, dysfunctional um, model for how to relate, So this stuff has to be learned and explored and discovered. But the thing is, it's really beautiful in terms of the potential that is there for so many people to step into.
I absolutely agree. And I actually just remember that I wanted to speak a bit more to when you said that you had to learn about like how to express yourself and like say what you want and all of that. Uh, as yourself, I also never learned this stuff, not at least in my household. There was no boundaries. boundaries. There was no communication. There was no expressing like what I need. I didn't even know that my needs, what they are, let alone how to ask for it. And I feel that what often happens in a relationship, when the, you know, mundane kind of reality takes over, it's like we forget about checking in with ourselves and asking ourselves, what are our needs? What do I need right now? Let alone to ask for what you need from your partner. Because again, oh, but they're going through a lot, oh, but you don't want to, oh, but I already asked before, I don't want to ask again. You know, it's like, oh, I better do it myself. And we kind of become separate people. Like we become those individuals who, yes, may live together, but then again have separate lives. You know, it's like having this experience at work, having that in like wrapped up in own problems and whatnot. You know, there is the other individual, they wrapped up in their own problems and they have that. Or maybe they having like I don't know, a good day, but then they don't want to share with another because they're going through something different and like challenging, you know. And it's like, and connection time isn't there. So when you actually create consciously time for date nights, for connection, for intimacy, for a conversation, that allows you to bring yourself closer together, because this is where you get the chance to realize that I am not alone. Because the scariest thing, to be honest, is to be in a relationship but to be alone. That is the scariest thing. Is like, how freaking lonely is that, knowing that you go to sleep with this person every day but you feel so alone. Like that every time when you try to share something with them, they don't hear you, or they just, I don't know, discount your feelings or your emotions. And, you know, sooner or later, what happens? People just stop sharing their hearts because fear of judgment, like shame about what is happening, made feel wrong, you know, for feeling this way. Like, and I feel that it's very important for us to understand where we stand, like what is happening for me right now, so that nobody else can actually tell you that it's not right. Because if I feel sad, you cannot tell me that it's wrong for me to feel sad. You know, like you cannot. And somehow there's still people who try to do that, who try to like wrong. But when you're certain in yourself of who you are and where you stand, there is nobody who can convince you otherwise. If you know that white is white and black is black, you just know that, you know. And this is from your perspective. From their angle, it could be different. There could be a gray, a yellow, you know, and whatever.
Right. So now you're getting into the realm of like conscious communication, I suppose, in a way, which again, I've had to learn and still learning. Where one of the important things that I've learned is to always speak from I. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody about something, I will speak about my experience, because my experience cannot be questioned because it's my experience. So I know I'm feeling this. I notice I'm sensing this in my body. I notice I'm having this thought. I notice I'm imagining that you're angry with me rather than you're so angry with me, which is an assumption and it's a projection. Because another thing I learned is that sometimes I would misinterpret people's facial expression, or I would misinterpret their body language based on wounds and traumas from my past. I would assume that they were thinking or intending, and they weren't. So one of the techniques that I learned was, okay, I can identify what I'm feeling. Like I feel my heart is racing. I feel my system shutting down. I feel triggered right now. I don't know if I can think clearly anymore. I'm imagining you're angry with me. and ask, like, what is it you're feeling right now, so that you kind of, you're not putting the other person on the defensive, right? So anytime you're telling somebody what they're thinking, or you're telling somebody what they're not thinking, that's going to really shut down the possibility for intimacy and conscious connection. Um, and then, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we could get into here about how men tend to get defensive when they hear a woman speaking from her emotions if they haven't healed their wounded inner child, right? And then the same way round, like women are going to sort of get over emotional and distraught if they haven't healed their inner child. So it applies for both. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We all have wounded inner children, right? But there are these common patterns that can play out between men and women. The other thing I was going to say, based on, like, following on from what you shared, Eugina, is like the difference between codependence and interdependence. Because, like, you know, if you're in a relationship, or even if you're just dating, like, ideally there are two sovereign beings who love themselves, who are whole unto themselves, relating with another, you know, two sovereign beings whole unto themselves, loving themselves, relating. However, we're probably all on different levels of that, and also not always the same. Some days we may feel more sovereign whole, and other days less, and that's fine. We're human, right? No judgment of ourselves. But then if you look at how we're dating and how we're relating, the more, let's put it the other way around, the less whole and sovereign we are, the more transactional our relating, our dating is going to be. And the more it's going to be about trying to get something from the other person, projecting something onto the other person, rather than actually seeing who is there, taking, one of the things you also spoke about before, full responsibility for your experience. I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for me. You're responsible for you. And I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to try and control you. I'm not going to try and manipulate you. But I will take responsibility for my experience, which means responsibility for what I say, responsibility for what I do, responsibility for how I feel, and responsibility for then what we co-create. Because then if you do go into a relationship, then, you know, there's this overlapping part in the middle. And what you both bring into that overlapping part, you're responsible for your part. Which is different to trying to control or manipulate the other person. And also, bless you.
Thank you. I just have to have a sip of water.
Not the same codependence when you need the other person, which I know, like, because that's been a strong part of my patterning. You need the other person to be something so that you feel okay. I need you to be calm and not angry so that I feel safe. Well, no, sometimes people get angry. That's human. It's okay. I need you to do this, otherwise I'm, you know, like, so that's codependency. I'll stop talking for a bit. Also, I haven't got a timepiece. Do you know how we're doing time wise?
Yes, so we already came up to an hour.
Really? Oh.
So I think this would be a good time for us to complete this live. I can see some comments. Such a good live feed. Thank you. I'm so happy. Thank you, Kaylee, for joining us. Thanks so much for being with us. Really appreciate your feedback. Hi, Cliff, Anthony, Kaylee, Matt, Carolina, Trexie. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. And yeah, if you have got any questions, if you would like to speak on some topics, please share that in the comments. And we, of course, gonna touch on, in particular, like topics that resonating with you in our future lives. It seems that we are on a good roll here, going for weekly lives. So yeah, let's keep them rolling, because we both really enjoy these conversations, and as you see, it's quite hard to stop.
what we're doing is of value to people, you know, I'm really happy to keep going. I just really hope that there's value here, you know, value and inspiration, because I love it. I love you and I love this. So yeah. Before we go, I would love to just mention a couple of things. So I have actually an event tomorrow evening that I'm co-creating with my friend and beautiful Starseeds goddess sister, Lasar. We are offering it's online event tomorrow evening for women, which is called Clearing Love Blocks. It's going to be a very powerful energy clearing deep dive for beautiful, deep awakened women who just want to go the next level in anything that is inhibiting you from fully opening your heart to love and to the kinds of connections that you deeply desire. And on the 15th of February, on the Saturday, I'm offering a whole day of conscious connecting for men and women here in Glastonbury, and I'll put details below for both of those.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And what are incredible offerings. Absolutely incredible offerings. And for myself, I also have two events that are coming up, and one is Valentine's Celebration of Love on Valentine's Day in London, and it's for playful adults. It's for people who want to embrace their desires and connect with like-minded community. I gotta be honest, it's not a sex party, but the theme is definitely is around pleasure and sexuality and intimacy. So if those topics do interest you and you would like to immerse yourself in more sex positive community, this would be absolutely brilliant for you. No experience needed. You can come for the first time, join us. We will have a glass of champagne on arrival, you know, just, yeah, playful games, beautiful people around. So I would really love to invite you to that. And another event is on 18th of February, and it's Introduction to Tantra in Folkestone, Kent, where I live. So bringing Tantra to my local community, and it's an absolute dream come true. So watch out, everybody, if you want to come and join us. We still have few tickets left. So yeah, we will be a small group of 30. So we still have, you know, like a few tickets left. So come and join us there. So we will share the links in the comments below. And other than that, it feels quite a good place for us to complete another wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much, Eugina. I think you're awesome, and I love how this is, you know, I just love this. Thank you so much.
Likewise, likewise. I love you so much. So have a wonderful rest of the evening, and see you next week for another juicy conversation.
Bye, everyone.